Yeah, so that's all from the world of fiction and science. Brandon, do you want to talk about the Twilight Zone for all the people who have not turned off the podcast yet?
Let us talk about the Twilight Zone.
Let's do it.
Do.
Yes. So, season 3, it's completed. I finished season 3. You've seen all the season 3 episodes, of course. How do you feel about this season overall as it compares to seasons 1 and 2?
I like season 3. It has when I'm watching any of the marathons,
Mm-hmm.
some of these episodes stick out to me the most, and I don't know if it's because I just happen to be awake during those points.
Sure.
These episodes come in. So like the jungle, for some reason, the jungle
Mm-hmm.
is an episode that I remember. I'm scrolling through the list of episodes here. Little Girl Lost, like The Simpsons, that's a big one.
Yeah.
And then then there's lesser ones like 4 o'clock. I don't actually
Mm.
remember what that one is, right?
Yeah.
But as far as the series goes, like I like season 3 before season 5 happens, and
Mhm.
season 4, you barely ever see because it's an hour long, and so
Right.
you miss it in most runs.
Right.
As a first time watcher, what kind of jumped out at you about the season 3?
That is a good question. So I vividly remember season 1 when I was winding down, when I was finishing season 1. I know a listener had emailed in, and they had said something to the effect of, like, you've seen the best season of the show. Like, and it was so interesting to me because in my head I was like, yeah, I've seen one of the best seasons of television I have ever seen and will ever see. And like in that moment in season 1, I was like, there are bad episodes? There's it's not going to be good? Like, is that really the case? And like season 3 has such an eclectic mixture of incredible, absolutely phenomenal episodes. I'm thinking like The Shelter, The Arrival, A Game of Pool, like blew
Yeah.
me away. And like even on the emotional side of things, like the episode The Hunt and The Trade-ins, those episodes like broke my heart. And like it delivered on such an incredible emotional resonance for me, that I wasn't expecting, because like The Trade-ins and The Hunt are 2 episodes that I didn't know hardly anything about. Like, I know a lot of these episodes from pop culture, like you mentioned, The Simpsons, Little Girl Lost, and there was an It's a Good Life is very prevalent in The Simpsons, and like
In the Gremlin one, right?
no, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. The Shelter too is also another one that The Simpsons riffed on. And like those were good, solid, great episodes for me. But like those little like pockets of episodes that I didn't expect to, like I didn't expect or didn't have like expectations for, just blowing me away, was like it was such a treat. It was like it was fantastic. The changing of the guard too. Like, oh my god, what a way to end the season. Like, oh yeah. So, I don't know where I'd rank it over seasons 2 and 1, because like season 2 has one of like seasons 1 and 2 have my 2 absolute favorite episodes of the series. That's The Obsolete Man and The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street.
Mhm.
Those, by my count, are about the most perfect examples of like perfect television from start to finish. There are no 10-star, 5-star. There's no like perfect episode in season 3, but there are episodes where it gets pretty dang close, and I really love it for that.
Yeah, you mentioned Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. The more it's a famous episode. Obviously, I've got like the
Mhm.
graphic novel version of that episode
Nice.
where my
I've
book.
got a I've got a poster on my wall of it.
Yeah, like the moral of that is good, and it's a more science fiction fantasy version of that story. The
Mhm.
Shelter is basically the same thing, but a much more uh, realistic version of that story, right? It's
Yeah,
saying it takes the science fiction out of it, and maybe that's why I like the Shelter more.
interesting.
And yeah, I know like somebody out there is probably like, F you.
I'm just
Like,
going to end the call here.
you like that more than Monsters? Um, and I think it is because there's a little bit more. It's sad because
Mhm.
that is more realistic to me, of like everyone being at a party and all of a sudden
Mhm.
shit's hitting the fan. Sorry, cussing.
Oh,
Crap,
that's fine.
crap and shit are hitting the fan, and everyone just starts turning against each other. And then like in the throes of the pandemic having just
Mhm.
happened and still going on. That's
Yeah,
we're not really done, despite
right.
um like neighbor against neighbor, like that stuff is, to me, I'm like, no, that's true. Like
Yeah.
this is what actually happens. Turn
Mhm.
people's power off. That'll piss people off.
Mhm.
But I've been in my neighborhood when when one of the generators blows, and
Mm.
mostly it's just everyone's like, oh, I can't get my
Yeah.
HBO Max account.
Mhm. Yeah, that's so interesting. Like, I remember when the power went out in my apartment, like a few years ago. Like, it was like a thing where it was like it was not going to get done until the next day, and like it was frustrating and everything. I just went and saw a movie. Like, I like that's it.
I'm like, I guess I'll go for a run now. I
Yeah,
haven't run in a while. Might as well do
yeah,
that
yeah. But that's really interesting about The Shelter being that kind of grounded, non-science fiction reaction. That's one of the things that really stuck out to me. Like, that's one of the episodes that I rated 9 stars out of 10. Like, it is that tragedy of the fragility of society or friendship or camaraderie, what have you, just crumbling instantly. Like, I think about in that episode, there are like a couple of times where the one guy starts like doing like the 60s version of racial slurs at like getting
now.
around the censors and everything, like basically discriminating against his friend for being like a foreign person.
Yeah,
And
right.
like the pain of that, the shock of that is so well drawn in this episode, and it just hammers home like how like when you are faced with the deconstruction crumbling of like the cushiness of your life, like when so much is at stake, like what are you willing to do to your fellow man, to people that you have broken bread with and celebrated birthdays with, like
Yeah. It
it's
it goes
incredible.
much deeper. This isn't the Shelter episode, but
Right.
the last thing I'd really say is like that there's something superficial about like, hey, you have a ham radio in your basement, you watch the stars at night, versus the very real thing that like prejudice is real, and
Yeah.
people judge each other, and we are friends, we have family, everybody has some issue with somebody else, like
Mhm.
even if you're best friends, even if you're married, everybody at their core is like, I don't really like that about that person.
Right.
And what the Shelter does is emphasize that, yeah, these small little schisms can turn into something greater.
Mhm.
So, anyways, that's why I like it more than Monsters. Uh,
Yeah, and that's totally fair. Like, I totally get that. And also the ending of The Shelter is so profoundly tragic, where it's after everything has settled
oh
and
yeah,
everything has come, like they're trying to get back to normal. They're trying like immediately like, "Oh, well, we'll have a block party to raise money and everything. It's like, no, we've taken everything out of the box. We can't put it back in. Like everything is ruined now. Like you can't
Yeah.
repair it.
And I know I said that was the last thing I was going to say, but again, monsters. It ends with one to the other, one to the other.
Mhm.
There's so many other Maple Streets, and this
Yeah.
one is the tragedy of this is,
Mhm.
I mean, the crisis was averted, but the long lasting ramifications of what transpired in the episode, those can't be put back in the box.
Nope. Absolutely. Absolutely. And like it's one of my favorite like closing narrations. I'm not going to recite it or anything, but just like actually it's pretty short, so I'll just recite it. Like Soling just says, no message, no prophetic tract, just a simple statement of fact. For civilization to survive, the human race has to remain civilized. Tonight's very small exercise in logic from the Twilight Zone. Like that stuck with me
Mm.
so much after watching it. Like I have shared it on Facebook numerous times uh, at certain points in the recent last several years.
Uh-huh.
And like it's just it's so profound and so beautifully done.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think, kind of along those lines. I think in season 3, you with any show really, if you go multiple seasons, if you're an anthology, you start to see some recurring themes, and so you do see some things that start to be familiar.
Yeah.
Obviously, we just talked about the shelter and monsters
Mhm.
ad nauseum, but I think like in season 3, we start to see other things like that too. There
Yeah.
are some things that like are they're their own thing, but the themes of people being jerks and uh,
Yep.
doing bad stuff, like that happens a lot, which I've noticed.
Yeah, and there is a pretty noticeable trend in this season. Maybe not trend, but noticeable trend in this season of I don't want to go so far as to say recycled plots or anything, but like I mean like what is Cavender is coming if not the same episode from season 1 that I'm blanking on the name now with the dude, the discombobulated dude.
The guy who's selling stuff.
No,
Oh,
the guy, Mr. Beavis. Mr. Beavis.
yeah, Mr.
Yeah, like it's, and I believe if I remember correctly, I think Cavender is Coming was supposed to be like it was like written in that way. Like it was somehow connected to Mr. Beavis in some way. Like it was inspired by it or something. I don't know. But like that, and then like we said, the shelter and Monsters of on Maple Street. Um, there are other episodes that I'm blanking on in terms of like how they relate to the first. Oh, Nothing in the Dark, another episode about kind of the specter of death and like as an personified person.
Yeah, persons or persons unknown.
Yes.
Like that feels like it's a variation of, I forget the episode title, but
I think
where
A World of His Own or
yeah, where it's like he's an actor,
Yep.
you know. Like, okay, all right, it's not the same, but very very similar. Um,
Right.
yeah, and let's see, there's another one that I on there. Oh, like the little people, to
Mhm.
a certain extent, like anything with like the desert. Like those
Yeah.
feel like okay, wait, which one is this? Is this I shot an
Mhm.
arrow into the air? No, it's the little people. And then I'm
Right.
like, wait, is the little people the one where they wake up and they're hungover, but they're actually in like a dollhouse for an alien?
Oh, yeah.
Those are those types of things. Which, by the way, little
Yeah.
people, that's another Simpsons episode.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah. Oh, that's so great. Um, yeah, it's so interesting, and, like, there are some episodes also to kind of pivot a little bit, there's some episodes that are very unique from the previous seasons. Like there are a few that stick out to me in terms of their uniqueness and kind of breaking away from that Twilight Zone formula to an extent. So I'm thinking of like the opener of the season 2. No dialogue, just two people in a post-apocalyptic world, opposing factions in a war that has long since been settled and done, and the world has ended, and it's a love story between them. Like that's an incredible episode in terms of structure and communicating the themes of it and the chemistry and body language of the two characters. It's really beautifully done.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a good opening episode of a
Yeah.
season, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's and what I like about that is, yes, it starts with like, oh, it's a war, we don't know where it is, and
Mhm.
then it turns into from a science fiction into more of a biblical
Yep.
allegory.
Yep. Yep.
So I dug that. I dug that aspect of the twist. And Twilight Zone
Mhm.
doesn't always have twists,
Right.
despite what everyone thinks. But
Yeah.
that was like, okay, I see where this is going.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
I a couple seconds ago I mentioned I shot an arrow into the air, uh,
Mhm.
which was the wrong reference, but
Oh,
that is actually looking at episode 2, The Arrival.
yes.
Right, that is more along those lines where shot an arrow into the air, that's when they're like, uh, they start disappearing a little bit over time.
Oh,
Whereas
no, that's, is no, I shot an arrow into the air is the guys that are, they
oh,
think they're on an asteroid. Yeah. Um,
that's right, and then they see the
yeah, the episode you're talking about is When the Sky Was Opened.
thank you.
Yeah.
Ah, this is why I need to do a podcast.
Yes. But The Arrival, like I actually love that episode because of that. Like, I'm not too hot on the ending, the reveal at the end. That's an episode where it feels like it's writing toward an ending that's not satisfying, or not the big bombshell ending or big profound ending. It's more of
Like a
it's more of
like a whimper?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's
"Oh, yeah, you were crazy, man."
Yeah, exactly. But the process of it leading up to that, the mystery surrounding it, the way that it's kind of presented as like as an investigation, like a procedural, I was all into that. I was really, really invested in that, and I really liked it.
It in that way, it reminds me kind of like of a uh, the Scorsese film Shutter Island, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, oh, it's an investigation,
Mm.
and they're like, what is going on? What's happening here? And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, well, he's crazy.
Yeah, yep. Turns out what you should have been investigating was yourself. Um, so
We are the Walking Dead.
exactly. We are the arrival. Um, um, this is like, I don't remember if I mentioned this in the actual review for A Game of Pool, but that's another episode that stands out. Like, that was a 9-star, not 9 out of 10 episode for me. And it's just so, as someone, and I think I did go on like a little bit of a not rant, but a sidetrack in the episode. So I apologize for the repeating thing, but this was like 2 years ago at this point. Um, but A Game of Pool, I was so fascinated by it because it is about a central character who is self-obsessed with one thing. It's a hyperfixation on one thing that they want to do and they want to accomplish. They want to be the best at. And while that's not what I'm doing, like, I do have a hyper fascination with podcasting and doing this creating content thing and everything. Check out patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. But but like, just seeing that demonstrated, seeing that passion for something that borders on obsession was so well drawn, and it resonated with me so much in A Game of Pool that it was really, and it was really kind of it put me in an introspective light. Um and Also, this is so dorky, so incredibly dorky. But like, there's a moment in a game of pool where, in context, I watched a game of pool like right around the time that I upgraded all of the podcast equipment. I was very excited about it. I got like good gear for the podcast and everything. And there's like a moment where I think it's where Fats Brown takes out his pool cue from like a case, and he is doing it so delicately. It's like this is like a talisman for the thing that he like his gift. And I'm like, I get that when I press the record button on the Roadcaster. um,
Mhm.
like I kind of get that. I get that when I take the microphone out of its case. I kind of understand that kind of level of just like respect you have for the tools of the thing that you're passionate about. Yeah.
Yeah, that I that's one of those episodes that always stands out to me,
Mhm,
that I always enjoy, because Jonathan Winters is great, and Jack Klugman, of course. What I like about that episode is always the fact that Fats Brown
mhm.
wants to, like, he has to play his best, but he
Mhm.
also is like trying to be like, hey man, you don't have to do this.
Yeah. Yep.
like
Eh,
like
yeah.
I'm if I win, I have to keep doing this forever.
Mhm.
That sucks.
Yeah.
But you don't have to be doing this forever. Don't do this to yourself, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
and it's like a weird, it's like it's a little bit of mentorship. Like it's a
Mhm.
little bit of like, I'm don't touch the hot stove.
Right.
Don't touch it. Don't
Mhm.
you just listen to me. I'm not going to tell you what happens.
Mm.
But it's not going to be good.
Exactly.
And it's, yeah, good job for Jack Klugman.
Yeah.
He wins in the end, but then
Mhm.
he's like, Beijing, Beijing.
Paging. Yep. Yeah, I don't even remember his name. Jesus. Yeah, it doesn't say his name in the plot summary, but yeah, yeah. And Jack Klugman, man, like I feel like he has one more episode in the series at this point.
In
I think in season
Praise
5,
of Pip,
In
his
Praise of Pip. Okay.
yeah.
And like I get into this mode when I'm watching the show and I am doing my research and everything. I'm like, oh, this is the fourth episode of his 5 appearances on the Twilight Zone. And like I get into this moment, this kind of like melancholy where I'm like, I only have one more episode of Jack Klugman in the Twilight Zone. I only like this is the last time I'm gonna see so and so in the Twilight Zone. And I'm like, I have such a deep admiration for so many of these actors that I just want to see them in more things of this stature. And it's kind of like it's kind of a bummer. I'm like, I'm gonna miss old Jackie Boy.
Yeah.
Um,
You
yeah.
don't have a show called The Odd Couple, that
Mm.
you
Yeah.
start reviewing for.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
I'm
Yep.
with I'm with you.
Yeah.
Um, you know, which the next episode of that season, The Mirror, right, where
Mhm.
where Peter Falk is a
Yeah.
dictator.
It's
Let me just throw this out there. If
mm.
anybody wants to do a Columbo podcast, I'm
Ooh.
because I fall asleep to Columbo nonstop. It's a good show. One more thing, Peter
Mhm.
Falk, great,
Yeah.
so great. Um, and this episode is maybe not the best,
Sure.
but I love seeing his fake eye.
Oh, yeah. It's something that like, this episode is one of those ones that grew on me the more and more I watched it, both in preparation for the episode about it and just in passing and, like, watching it, like, during like, I don't know if I watched it during the marathon, but, like, that's another thing, just a brief aside since we mentioned the marathon. I didn't participate in it this year,
Mhm.
but the previous year, I did, and I was so pleased with it. I was so excited about it. I was so happy with it because I was able to look at the schedule and I scheduled out a ton of tweets to go out. And then the reason I didn't do it this year is because Elon Musk is a freaking dork and has ruined Twitter. And like, you can't even schedule posts. You can't even like through like Libsyn where I host the podcast, I do like posts that I schedule out. And like, I can't do that with Twitter because Elon Musk is a dork.
He messed with the API. Yeah.
Yeah, it
It's
sucks.
called
But
X, Matt.
oh yeah, X. Yeah, nope, nope. There was a great TikTok that someone said that was the caption was uh, like we run into someone who refers anytime we talk to someone who refers to Twitter as X, and it's like a woman and she's holding a glass and she just covers the glass with her hand and walks away. It's like, yeah, I get that.
Yeah, that's all right.
Um,
All right.
yeah, but the mirror grew on me. It was solid, and like it's funny that viewing it in the 2020s now, like there is a certain level of issues you can raise with it and everything. But I would wager that like in terms of his performance and his kind of appropriating nature of it, I guess. But there's an episode this season that I can't reconcile. Like I I don't I tried so hard to reconcile it with like my 2024 brain.
With what it's trying to say. What you're like, I understand what you're trying to
Mhm.
say with this, but hey, makeup department, I can't get behind it.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think we're tracking the same one.
Yes. Are you are you aware of the episode that I'm referring to?
Are we talking about Equality of Mercy?
No, no. I didn't
Oh,
even think of that.
oh, no,
Okay, yeah,
that's
totally.
exactly what I'm thinking about. Because Dean
Okay.
Stockwell is like, hey,
I
in
wasn't.
Japanese makeup.
Yes. Oh my god, I didn't even think of that. Let's talk about that, and then I'll talk about the one that I couldn't I couldn't
Oh
do.
crap! All right, so yeah, Quality of Mercy, Dean Stockwell, he's a
Yeah.
lieutenant. They're like there are some Japanese soldiers that in a
Mhm,
cave, and Dean Stockwell's an American lieutenant. He's like, no,
mhm.
kill him, don't show him any mercy. And then all of a sudden he opens his eyes, and all of a sudden he's one of the Japanese soldiers, but
Yeah.
he's an Asian face, and
Yeah. Ugh.
it's like you. Yeah, my son is 12. We watched Blazing
Mhm,
Saddles recently, and it's
mhm.
like different time, like there's
Yeah.
you got to remember that when we're watching it. And
Mhm.
so, in 61 this comes out, I'm like, I'm trying to remember it. I'm trying to remember the context of the time.
Yeah.
And they don't even show one episode of Community on streaming because
Right.
the drows,
Yeah. Or there are a few episodes of It's Always Sunny that aren't on streaming because of
Like Murtaugh or
yeah, yep.
the Lethal Weapon remake.
Yeah, it's it's rough. I'd completely forgotten about like yeah, that's an issue. I do appreciate what they're going for with that, and I do think that um there's a level of respect that I can levy at this episode with regard to the themes that it's exploring and the messaging of it because like I here's the thing, like I grew up in a family of both of my parents were in the Marine Corps. So anything like they were of a mind where anything that's like against like they didn't really view conflict like on a like war scale or whatever as a nuanced thing. It's like, oh, America's the best. We need to win at everything. Let's do everything. Who cares if they have weapons of mass destruction or not?
Hmm.
What I appreciate about Equality of Mercy is that it's literally putting the viewer in the perspective of the opposing force, and like that's something that it is it is humanizing something like a group that has been deemed the enemy in pop culture and everything. Not
Yeah,
specifically, like it's not.
for
Yeah,
sure.
it's not. It's not like saying like, oh, not specific to like the Japanese in World War II. Just in terms of conflict in itself. Like it's like there are two sides to the war. Like there are human beings who are following orders, just like these people are following orders, and like it's it's really kind of this level of compassion that is being demonstrated and signaled to the audience that, like, yeah, you can be a part of the whole, like, oh yeah, let's get them like gung ho, like jingoistic, like war movie, patriotic stuff, but also like people die a lot and like it's this interesting kind of viewpoint that's kind of showcasing different perspectives,
Yeah,
in humanizing dehumanized subjects.
agreed. Uh, that I don't want to say devil's advocacy, but like being able to
Mhm.
like see like both sides of a thing, like
Mhm.
empathy, like that's really what it's saying is
Yeah.
think about what is happening over there. Think
Mhm.
about the culture that is over there. Think about the politics and everything that is going on in a side that you don't necessarily believe in.
Yeah.
And so Asian face aside, that's
Mhm.
what that moral is. And so yeah, we can get past some of that. We're like, yeah, okay, the moral is good.
Yeah.
Um, now I'm still trying to guess which one you're
Oh,
thinking.
yeah.
Are the jungle?
No, 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 no. It's not anything about like appropriating anything or anything anything like that.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Hit me with it because
Okay.
I'll keep messing it up.
It is season 3, of course, episode number, as I scroll, episode number 25, The Fugitive.
Oh.
It's such a weirdly icky
Oh,
episode that I
yeah.
can't. I rewatched it today
What a
and
princess.
like,
She's a little princess. And
yeah,
yeah.
and like it's just so weird to me. Like even with like I am not someone who is going to go ahead and the more and more I scroll TikTok, like the more I see that people are woefully just media illiterate, like across the board. Like it is, I don't know if it's like a Gen Z thing or if it's just like a case of shortened attention spans and like knee jerk reactions and needing to have like a hot take on everything. But like people will like the whole thing with when Dune Part 2 came out, like people were complaining because it's like, oh, Paul, why am I not rooting for Paul? He's the hero. Like, why is he doing this at the end? It's like be, because there's nuance to his character, and he's not like the like there were people like assuming that it was a white savior story when it's not. It's about like the growth of like a dictator and like absolute power, and like
Yeah.
it's like so much more nuanced than that. And people are like, well, it's a white savior narrative. It's like,
Yeah.
did you
Paul,
watch the yeah.
yeah, and going back to Dune and not reading the novels, if
Mhm.
the novels I know make it much clearer that Paul is not a
Mhm.
good person.
Right.
He is a dictator in training.
Yep.
He causes genocide, and in the movie they make him. That's really the problematic thing about the movie is they make
Mhm.
him a little bit more sympathetic. We're like
Yeah.
not trying to be bad. He's just being
Right.
forced into being bad by
Mhm.
fate, by
Yep.
the the witches. You know?
Yep. But
Yeah,
even that's like it's about like colonialism and things like that. It's there's just so much more to like, and people just do
like
like, and yeah.
the conversations he has are is like, I know I can come off as their messiah.
Mhm.
I know I can do that, but I don't want to do it. But then eventually he's like, ah, screw it, I'm gonna do it.
Yep. Yeah. It's just it's good. It's great. But anyway, like I can't really rationalize the meaning, the deeper meaning, the story telling anything about the fugitive because it is like at its like point blank, it's an alien that abducts a little girl and makes her his queen. And it's like it's so weird to me. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's yeah, like I mean you can say like, well, the time or whatever, and like it tries to like even with the picture at the end where it shows the old man's like true image of him being like a 16 or 17-year-old kid, it's like
That's
that's
still
yeah, that's also really not that's
you're,
not the
you're not saving yourself.
no, you're really not. And like it just it rubs me the wrong way, and I try so hard not to be someone who's like an obnoxious uh guy current like I pride myself on seeing this show through the lens of like the meanings, everything about it, like the deeper subject of it and everything. I don't want to do a knee jerk reaction of like, oh, this is a weird, like pedophilic sort of storyline that's doesn't really do much for me, but like I can't really escape it. It's just it's gross to me. I don't
You know,
know.
I know I'm with you. Couple references like music, right? Like
Mm.
uh, one of one of the one of the greatest songs. Like he's got such a beautiful voice. Benny Mardones. Uh, She's just 16 years old.
Yes.
Or alone, they say.
Ooh.
It is a great song, but those first couple lines, like, oh,
Yeah.
and then
Mm.
uh, there's a song called
Mm.
Claire back in the 60s, 70s. Uh, Another song. It's like it's a really good song, but it's like, are you hooking up with a girl? Like that's really 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 creepy.
Yeah.
And so it's just it's hard to reconcile. It's hard to like be able to look at an episode objectively when it's like
Yeah.
so like there's no moral here. What is the
Right.
moral? Let's go steal little girls. Like that's
Yeah.
no, we don't like that.
It's yeah, and even him calling her his girlfriend early in the episode, like, it just it's ugh,
Yeah,
it
her
it's
aunt
not.
in the episode is right. Like
Yeah.
don't trust this creepy old fuck.
It exactly, exactly, and then, like, I'm just fascinated by, like, what's the aftermath of this? Like, this woman who is the primary caregiver for this little girl, she's gone now, what is she gonna like, she's a terrible person in her own right and kind of verbally abusive and very domineering, but it's also, like, she is this little girl's guardian, like, that is it's it's weird. It's weird.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's just
Yeah, yeah.
it creeps me out.
It creeps me out too. It creeps me out too. But onto brighter topics.
Yeah, let's talk about brighter, creepier topics.
Yes.
I know I'm jumping around here, but
Mhm.
let me tell you a story, Matt.
Mhm.
When I was maybe 4 years old,
Mhm.
I'm in my house. It's like it's not quite summer vacation because I'm not in really kindergarten yet,
Mhm.
but but I've got a black and white TV, and my mom's in the living room. She's watching all my children,
Mhm.
and there's an episode that comes on TV, and it's a Twilight Zone, and it's an episode where there's a dummy,
Yes.
and the dummy takes over this guy.
Mhm.
Freaked me the hell out. It stuck me with me to this day. Of course, the dummy
Mhm.
being that one with Cliff Robertson.
Yes. I watched that one today as well. I rewatched it today, and the thing that sticks out to me with that episode is just the eeriness of the dummy itself and, like, the voice of it. Like,
Yeah,
"You're not gonna leave me in the trunk, are ya?" I'm like, "That's nightmare fuel, man." Like, that's wild.
dude,
Um,
and you're like you're a little kid, and you have like I'm 41, so I had
mhm.
my buddy doll. And I'm like, whoa, yeah, I
Mhm.
love stuffed animals, and all of a sudden, like, this thing is like, no, they're alive, and they're gonna turn you into one of them.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it ruined me. Um,
Nice.
but that was also the time where like I like the Twilight Zone. Yeah,
Nice.
I
Nice.
do like this.
It's a
So,
core memory. I like that.
or
Um,
memory.
yeah. For me, it was when I was in my, at the time, late 20s, and I watched Where Is Everybody for the first time for a podcast. Um, Yeah. Which was the whole start of the project.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, but the dummy is really good. I really like Cliff Robertson. I'm going to be talking about him in an upcoming episode with Victor Gamboa. There is also a not run of episodes, but there are a few episodes that it's something that's a little tricky when the Twilight Zone tries to do like a straight comedy, like tries to do comedic episodes that don't really work all that well for me.
Mhm.
Um, like a couple that kind of stick out are like Cavender is Coming and Showdown with Rance McGrew was really good at that. Like that was really solid at that. But the one that I was very surprised by, very pleasantly surprised, and I actually really enjoyed, and I think it's a good example of the show in its third season kind of branching out and doing something different while also doing like a bit of stunt casting. And that's Once Upon a Time. Um,
Mhm.
that episode just really I love the reverence that it has for Buster Keaton and the silent era. And like I still am just blown away by the fact that the entire like opening segment that's like in the style of silent film was like an afterthought late in production. Because that seems like something that would have been in the first draft, like as something that would be just a love letter to silent film and the star of this episode. How did you feel about Once Upon a Time?
Oh, I first of all, I didn't know that it was an afterthought.
Oh yeah.
That's, I mean, that's really cool. Um, I like this episode before I even know who Buster Keaton was. I
Mm.
was like, I like that. That's cool. Like that's a silent film. Blah, blah. And then once Chelsea, my wife,
Mhm.
she likes Buster Keaton. She watched a bunch of the movies, and then
Nice.
I was like, oh, okay, Buster Keaton, yeah. Oh, he's in this episode. I understand now. It
Yeah.
made that it made that leap of my enjoyment of the episode so much
Mhm.
greater because I'm like, okay, it is a love letter to him. It is him
Mhm.
like back in his kind of element of
Yeah.
this is what I do.
Yep.
And I love watching this episode. I'm glad it's out there, and it's one of the Richard Matheson's stories too. So
Mhm.
that's always great.
Yeah, and if memory serves, he like wrote it with Buster Keaton in mind. Um, yeah, yeah,
Versus what Chaplin or
yeah, or
yeah
Lloyd.
yeah.
Yeah, yep. Just really, really good standout episode because of its just change of style was unexpected for me. I really like that. I do want to because I kind of feel like we should probably wind down a little bit because I don't want to take up too much of your time.
No, yeah.
But
We're scheduled for 2 hours, and well, okay,
yeah,
2 hours is coming up, but it's fine.
yeah. Good, good. One that I definitely want to highlight that is such a great cross section of what I love about this show and why I love science fiction in general. And that's Little Girl Lost.
Mm,
Um, it is such a simple premise and such a straightforward thing. Like while watching it today, I kept thinking like this can be like set up as a stage production. Like people can do theater with this and like it's so fascinating to me because it is a testament to the writing and the performances and everything that you have basically the majority of the episode is actors acting at a blank wall with chalk on it and
yeah,
they sell it so well and it does such a great job of juggling that dramatic tension, the very terrifying thought of this little girl lost in another dimension with sparse set decoration and everything, but also elevated like sound design. Like it's such a great just amalgam of what makes a great Twilight Zone episode stand out. Like the sum of its parts is great.
yeah. couple things real quick. This episode always gets me confused with, not confused, but like I always feel the same thing with the episode where the kid talks to his grandmother on the phone.
Oh yeah, long distance call.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. And then like then he goes away for a minute and he's like,
Mhm.
come back, let him go, mom. Um, so this one like has for me like similar sentiments, but so that's the first thought. The second thought is when I talked about this on Submitted for Your Approval, one of the things that I noticed and observed was uh so she disappears, she's in the wall, and then he calls his buddy who's a physicist,
Mhm.
and the physicist is like, yeah, this is probably what it is. He's not like, did you kill your daughter and like hide her body
Right.
somewhere? He's like, this is what it is. Let's put an
Mhm.
X here, X here. She's in another dimension. I'm
Yep.
with I'm with you, bro. And like to me that's like such a talking about like your suspension of disbelief. This guy,
Mhm.
let's just go with it. Let's roll with it. I love that about Little Girl Lost. Is it just it's like Professor Frank just being like, yeah,
Yep.
we're doing it.
Yep. The third dimension. And I love that if you can buy into that premise, it's really great. Um, and it's just it really what I kept thinking about as well was I want a poster of like I want to put on like my wall like a poster of that design, the chalk outline on it, just because I think that would be really fun to have on the wall. Um, but yeah, and as someone who has no kids and no like attachments like that, I still felt like because I'm a human being who's capable of empathy, of course, I felt like that is a horrifying premise. Like that is a horrifying premise that you like not only is your child missing, like she is gone, but she's gone in such a way that you can hear her but you can't get to her. And like the kind of big reveal at the end that it's like, the reason why I wanted you to do this at this point and stuff is that, we were seconds away from the barrier closing and like you would have been cut in half. And like just the fact that like this was a finite amount of time that they had without knowing they had
Mm.
that finite amount of time is just it is so thrilling and well written in my opinion.
Yeah, it wasn't like a MacGyver thing where it's like, ah,
Right.
5 seconds left, 4, 3. No, it's a good thing you got back because
Yep.
it closed, dude. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I dig it. It reminds me of yeah, as far as like kids and disappearing and Minority Report is one of my top movies.
Nice.
And like there's that sentiment of like you lost your kid out of
Mhm.
like, oh, you disappeared, you went away for a couple seconds and now your kid's gone. They're
Yep.
like that really sticks with you. Um and yeah, empathy because you're capable of it. We're
Yep.
capable.
Absolutely. We are empathetic human beings. Yeah. Any other episodes that you wanna highlight or that we can talk about that we haven't really touched on? I know that there are some big, like, iconic episodes. Any that jump to mind that you wanna talk about that we haven't touched on yet?
Yeah, okay. So there are a couple big ones here. Let me just go through a Piano in the House real fast.
Mhm.
That one being that dude's super cynical.
Yeah.
uh, that one makes me feel sad for the one woman who wants to be a dancer. It's like,
Yeah, Marge.
oh, poor,
Yeah, that
what a dick.
yeah, that is and it's so that episode is so, heartbreaking in its own right, and it's really fascinating because we have a couple of episodes like this where we have the central character being just an out of this world maniac,
Hmm.
a-hole, cynical, misanthrope. Like, this episode and, there was another episode that is very, very close to this.
It's the one where he like minding the matter.
No. That was season 2. This one and One More Pallbearer with the guy who like he's a millionaire and he brings like 3 people who in his mind have wronged him in his life.
Yeah.
Um, these 2 episodes are so interesting because they're so in sync with each other as presenting us with a character who believes them to be the hero of their story and believes them to be infallible and completely like like in the right in everything they do, which is a character trait that I have come across a lot in my life as an adult, really. Um, it, over the last 4 years, weirdly enough, that has cropped up a lot. 4 or 8 years even. But like in One More Pallbearer, and then like that is such an interesting episode in that it just takes the character and like leaves him on a like he gets his just desserts. Um but with Piano in the House, that is such a that is such a biting, incisive like depiction of what is going on beneath the surface of that character.
Hmm.
And like it's so interesting to me that like we have the character of Marge who throughout the episode she is like you get the sense that she is heading off like she's openly joking about what is presumably her biggest insecurity, which is her weight. And
Yeah.
so she is making all of these jokes so that people aren't going to make jokes at her. And like when you have this character that is like a malignant narcissistic person who is capable of that, then have the episode kind of turn it on its head where I don't know, him being like him having so much fun exposing all of these people's insecurities and then not having the forethought to think that, oh, if I have my wife play the music, I'm going to be affected by it. And then have him have this just really just incredible uh display of vulnerability that you kind of feel bad for him, but also he's an asshole. So like I don't like I want him to
Suffer.
feel this pain. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
yeah, I like that one.
The on the March thing, as somebody who, in the interview I just had, I'm always like self-deprecating. I'm like,
Mm,
like trying to adjust the expectations, be like, well,
yeah.
I'm not as great as, I suck, but thank you for
Mhm,
spending time with me. Like that defense mechanism of belittling yourself
mhm,
so that people don't make fun of you for it. And then some jerk with a piano then
mhm,
is like, I know you're trying to defend yourself, but let's break that down. You are
yeah.
actually insecure about that. It's such a cruel thing to do.
It really is. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Really, really well done. And that was another episode that I knew nothing about. I had no expectations for it, and I was very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, yeah. And he starts
Yeah.
that episode as almost like a protagonist a little bit.
Mhm.
Then he finds the power of the piano and he's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna use this in a bad way.
Yep.
So it like it turns it around on us,
Mhm.
within that first act.
Yep.
Um, okay, so big episodes of the season: To Serve Man, It's a
Mhm.
Good Life. There are 5 characters in search of an exit.
Mhm.
That's kind of a good one.
Yeah.
Um, uh, the Between those two, I know I just said 3, but between It's a Good Life and To Serve Man, To Serve Man, another Simpsons reference.
Mhm.
That one I always like, and I like what I love about that episode is that it's another one of those kind of like they have like stock footage of like the United Nations. It
Mhm.
is it is presented in such a different way from the rest of the series, where it's like this guy is telling a narrative. He's already on the ship. He's telling us what led to that point. Um, and it's such a different way of telling a story than the rest of the Twilight Zone tends to be.
Yeah, having that character introduce that like, having, like, basically breaking the fourth wall to give his own monologue and narration to us, like, that kind of that kind of broke my brain a little bit. I was like, what, like, this is so irregular for this show. And it was interesting.
He's kind of giving like the twist up front, like, hey,
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna get abducted.
Yep.
Don't give me food. Let me tell you the story.
Yep. Yep.
Kind of weird.
Oh yeah. There was something about It's a Good Life. I just want to just briefly mention that when I rewatched this episode, like I love that episode. I think that's another one that is also kind of irregular in that it begins with Serling in front of like a map of the United States and he's giving his narration. It's also uh it's also so chilling to me because Bill Mumy has a line of dialogue where he mentions it's when he's talking to his father and he says he sees like the neighbor's dog outside, and then he just mentions like offhandedly, he mentions, this one guy bugged me, that's why I put him on fire. And like the wording of that is so chilling to me because it is like it's intentionally worded. It's something like that's why I put him in fire or why I set him in fire or something like that. But like the actual wording of it is like communicating so clearly like this is a child who does not have, like, he is not capable of empathy like us. Um and he is someone who doesn't have, like, his brain hasn't developed enough to formulate like consequences to his actions, and like he is just someone who is in control of everything, and it's just like it's such a easy straightforward line, but the way that he says it is just, it communicates, it's horrifying.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the 2000s remake of the Twilight Zone
Mhm.
had a sequel to it.
Yep.
It's Still a Good Life, maybe.
Yep.
And
With both Bill Mumy and Cloris Leachman reprising. Yeah.
yes, reprising the roles. So I haven't watched that episode. I know generally of the conceit of it, but I think that's interesting where Moomy as a kid in It's a Good Life doesn't have that empathy, and then eventually realizes, oh crap,
Yep. Yep.
oh this is what my parents were trying to teach me.
Exactly. Like there is I'm trying to see if it's Still a Good Life is on um YouTube, because a lot of times, yeah, the entirety of the episode is on YouTube.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's a really good episode, and what I like about it is that it not only has him as a grown up in his like 40s, but he now has a child. And that's the kind of dramatic story that's being told, is that like is she now, like, is she growing, is she having these powers too, and like how is this person who is responsible for the destruction of like the entire world outside of this community, how is he going to reckon with the idea of his spawn having the same power and like being in the position that he put an entire community's worth of people in. It's a really interesting episode.
Yeah, yeah. I love that they did a sequel to keep the themes and expand
Mhm,
upon them. Now, so the last episode I'll mention,
mhm,
since we're on the subject of Twilight Zone the movie segments,
mhm.
is Kick the Can.
Yes. Now, obviously, because of the conceit of this podcast, I haven't seen the Twilight Zone movie.
Okay,
Um, if I remember correctly, is Kick the Can the one that Spielberg directed?
it is. Yeah.
Okay. That has me very excited to eventually get to it, because Kick the Can is another one of those episodes that really made had a profound effect on me emotionally, just because it's a well-drawn story about youth, nostalgia, aging, and reclaiming your youth. And like those are themes and ideas that I think Spielberg especially in like the 80s and 90s and so forth, explored through like his Amblin movies. And like anytime I see like an Amblin logo, I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna be like a cool like coming of age movie. But he explores those so well, and like I'm very curious to see how he handled that with Kick the Can. So anyway, what yeah.
How does so because I've seen the movie and I've seen the episode so many times, sometimes I get them confused which
Oh,
one
interesting.
I like more. How does the episode end?
The episode ends with the old man. Basically, his friend wants to. I'm like, okay, so Charles is the old man who wants to reclaim his youth,
Mhm.
and I believe Ben is his friend who wants to protect him. So he's in league with the superintendent of the rest home that they're in to try to get Charles back from the brink of sanity. So the episode ends with Charles going out and like I think he has like a bunch of the other residents like go out to play kick the can because he believes that if they play kick the can they'll be kids again. And it's very heartbreaking because it ends with Ben going outside and seeing a bunch of kids and like realizing that like he missed out on reclaiming his youth because he didn't believe in Charles and he wanted to take that away from Charles, even if he had good intentions. But like it ends with him strolling back into the rest home while the kids are playing kick the can.
Yeah.
Very, very beautiful and amazing ending.
Okay. Um, so I think I used to say like, yeah, Twilight Zone one is better.
Hmm.
And Spielberg is very saccharine when it comes down to it a lot of
Yeah.
time. Uh, but I actually like the movie's ending better. And
Interesting.
I don't want to spoil it for you, but
Thank you.
Scatman Crothers is in there. Uh,
Nice.
and it feels more hopeful. It doesn't end with like a
Nice.
dejected, this will never happen, I missed out.
Hmm.
It ends with hope.
Nice. Nice. That has me very excited, and I'm very excited to get to the movie in 2027. Um, yeah, yeah, I'm very excited, and like it's interesting that like the movie had 5 segments or I think it was 5 or 3. It was 3 adaptations and 2 originals, right?
Yeah, had
Yeah.
had the envelopes with Dan Aykroyd and
Mm.
uh, Albert Brooks, and
Oh, nice.
then it had one with uh, yeah, it had Kick the Can, it had It's a Good Life,
Mhm.
it had another one with the guy that suffered in tragedy with the kid,
Yeah,
um, and
and then Nightmare.
yeah, with
Yeah.
John Lithgow.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, so that was it. And yeah, I mean, I like the movie.
Nice.
But
I
it's
own it,
scary.
but mm,
You'll watch it.
nice, nice. I own it, but obviously I'm not gonna be able to watch it for 2 more seasons.
I'll be
So,
there. You know, we can do
nice.
like a live watch.
That would be awesome, actually. That would be really cool. I'm gonna hold you to that.
Okay.
Again,
I'll forget
I'm
about
gonna
it
yeah,
in 2 hours. But
I'm gonna send you a Google Meet invite for like April 3rd, 2028. Let's give us a nice buffer. So yeah.
I'm
Uh
there, dude.
Nice, nice. Okay, so to kind of wind down, we've kind of talked a lot just in general about the season. Uh, what I'm hesitant to ask this. First of all, let me postpone this question because I'm hesitant to ask it further. Um, one episode of this season, you could pick one episode. What is it? What's your favorite episode of season 3 overall?
Oh shoot. Oh, uh, now I'm interested in what your original question was going to be. I have to scan
Mhm.
37 episodes.
Yeah.
Damn. I have to. I guess I have to like put myself in the perspective of what stuck out to me most
Mhm.
throughout my years of this earth.
Nice.
Um, I mean, I already talked about the dummy, but
Mhm.
I think that is the earliest memory I have of the show, and uh, because of that episode, the Twilight Zone is part of who I am.
Nice.
And yeah, it scared the crap out of me as a kid, but it didn't stop me from wanting to watch it as my mom watched soap operas.
Mhm.
So yeah, like, maybe it's the dummy. Like It's a Good Life, some of those more famous ones, those are there too, but the dummy is it.
Nice, nice. Well done. Like, I respect that. I appreciate that. Um, I think for me,
Hmm.
um, I would probably say a game of pool, because that resonated with me a lot. There's a lot of episodes that resonated with me in big ways, but that was one that I just found to be really, really strongly written and demonstrated the themes and everything of passion and losing yourself to that passion,
Yeah,
in pursuit of something, losing things in your life for to be the best at something that ultimately doesn't matter. Um, but it's so interesting because I think season 3, like I said before, season 3 is a season of television that doesn't have, for me, a Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. It doesn't have an Obsolete Man episode. So it is maybe not my favorite season, but there is so many good standout episodes and interesting episodes that play with the conventions and the expectations of the Twilight Zone in fun and unique ways. Um, yeah, so I would say probably a game of pool. Yeah.
it's the story of, you know, ambition isn't a bad thing.
Mhm.
It's good to have ambition,
Yeah,
but obsessing about ambition, that's when it becomes a problem.
exactly. And this is as good a time as any to say, listen to the Obsessive Viewer podcast.
Oh yeah, that's your show. It's got
Yeah.
a title.
Yeah, where every year we do a 3.5 hour episode counting down our favorite movies of the year. So
Oh, oh, I would get like 15 minutes and I'm like, what did I watch this year?
yeah.
Or,
Oh,
dude.
we get deep into it. It's great. Yeah.
All right, Matt. Well, what was the question you wanted to ask and you postponed it?
Yes. So I'm hesitant to ask this, but what's in non-spoilers, of course,
Okay.
how what should I expect from season 4? Because I know that it is a much maligned season.
Mm.
It's an experimental season that didn't work in terms of the format, and I know I have a I'm my fear is that there's gonna be a lot, like, granted, it's only 16 episodes, but it's 16-hour-long episodes, but also, my fear is that I'm gonna dislike more episodes than I'll like. So, if you could soften that blow or
Mm.
give me hope for it or completely shatter the road that I'm about to be on, what should I expect from season 4?
How do I do this? I think the thing is as you're watching these episodes, try to think of them, distill them down into their essence of if you can get rid of the fat, what is this episode about?
Okay.
If you can do that, then I think you'll enjoy it more. There are a good couple episodes. Death Ship is a good episode. Um, it's one of those things. I think uh, Doll. Crap. There's like a Dollhouse
Uh,
episode.
okay.
Um, those episodes are good, but they go on a little bit too long. Like, if the economy of storytelling was a little bit better, I would have enjoyed this more.
Okay.
So it's not bad. It's just, what is the story about? Uh,
Mhm.
and it's kind of one of the things that like about like the Jordan Peele episodes. Like, you don't need to make it longer to tell a good compact story that gets an
Right.
effect out of you, that tells you what the moral is, gives you some kind of you know, feeling about like this. Don't be an asshole, right?
Mhm.
That I know what this is about 10 minutes into it. You don't need to go for another 50 minutes, right?
Sure.
So I think that's the thing about season 4.
Nice. Okay.
It's
I'll
still
keep that in mind. I am curious if my exposure to the Jordan Peele version has like will lessen the it will make it easier for me to digest an hour long episode of the Twilight Zone. Not that I'm concerned about that particular, but I'm just my main concern um is that I won't be as engaged with it as
yeah.
I am with the other episodes. So
That
um yeah.
that's fair. That's fair. Like it like a movie you've seen dozens of times and it's in the background, you're like, I'm not really engaged. I
Right.
know the basic plot points. I don't need to watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
That
I
that can happen
Okay.
in season 4.
So this is this is going to be a reference just for me, but so you're saying that season 4 of the Twilight Zone is the equivalent of David Wayne's movie They Came Together. In that I've seen that movie like 30 times. I can have it on in the background and I like like I know every beat of it. I don't know. That's yeah.
You can say that again.
Nice. Nice. So you're saying that the season 4 of the Twilight Zone is like I'm not going to do all that.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Oh, I'm so happy that you did that.
It works. I love David Wayne is my spirit animal.
Oh my god, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. They Came Together and Wet Hot American Summer are just two of my all-time favorite comedies. Yep. Yep.
The State, I
Beautiful.
was going to see The State live
Oh my god.
this month, and then they canceled the show here in LA. So
Oh, that sucks.
yeah,
Ugh.
can't dip my balls in it.
Sorry to hear that.
Uh,
Uh, but
anyway.
but yeah, let's kind of wind down because it's this has been a blast, but I do have to work tomorrow.
Oh yeah, sorry man, it's late. It's like
Oh, no, 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 no. You're totally fine. This is a blast. And I'm just so glad that I was able to get you on and to do like I have a spreadsheet of episodes for the podcast, of course, and like the ones that I have already recorded the second half of the science fiction theater episodes. I have those outlined like I have them like highlighted yellow because it's yellow. It's not green yet. Everyone else, all the other ones are red because they haven't been recorded yet. So these are yellow. And I just did episode 102, The Twilight Zone season 3 review with Brandon Cruz. I made it green. Um,
woo!
yes. Yeah. So to kind of wind down and to kind of close out the episode, Brandon, thank you so much for joining me, first of all. And if you could tell people where they can find you online, and if you have any other parting thoughts about Twilight Zone before I have you on again in 2.5 years when I finish season 4.
Man, of everything that I was prepared for, this wasn't one of them. I don't
Mm,
really know what to talk about myself. You
yeah.
can find me on Twitter at
Nice.
Barnyard Cruise.
Mhm.
Instagram Barnyard Cruise as well. Apathetic Enthusiasm. That's our main podcast where we talk about nothing really important. And then International RSS, Unofficial Rick and Morty podcast. That's on at Rick and Morty Pod, Rick and Morty Podcast at gmail.com. If you care about that, look, we're not toxic. All right, we're not toxic Rick and Morty fans. We're the ones who are like, look, we're fans just like you.
Mhm.
You're probably better than us. It's fine. It's fine. Let's just enjoy the show together. And
Nice.
then of course, Twilight Zone. Like
Mhm.
I don't know. We podcast. We just enjoy talking to people and talking to each other, hanging out with folks like you, Matt. I never would have met anybody like you if I hadn't talked about the Twilight Zone. So, thank you for bringing me in here in inviting me back over and
Yeah,
over
of
again,
course.
and and making you very, very tired for work the next day.
It is all good. I planned this out. It's all good. Like, yeah, this was the plan all along.